You're watching UATV News. My name is Inna Kosinska. Good evening. The prospects for cooperation between Ukraine and the United States were discussed by the Ministers of Defense of Ukraine and the United States in Kyiv. Lloyd Austin arrived in Ukraine on a working visit. According to the head of the Ukrainian Defense Department, Andriy Taran, another topic of the talks was the implementation of the agreement on the strategic foundations of defense partnership signed between Ukraine and the United States at the end of August. The ministers also talked about security in the Black Sea and the development of the armed forces of Ukraine.
That Russia started this war, and Russia is the obstacle to a peaceful resolution. And they can start by respecting Ukrainian sovereignty and its territorial integrity. And in the meantime, we will continue to do everything that we can to support Ukraine's efforts to develop the capabilities to defend itself.
Що у нас є?
What do we have to stop Russian aggression? We have the main thing, the armed forces of Ukraine prepared and trained during the war with the Russian invaders. We expect that the United States of America will continue to support our independence and in every possible way deter Russia from further spreading its aggression.
3 more countries of the European Union will sign declarations of the European perspective of Ukraine. This was stated by President Volodymyr Zelenskyy in an interview to Ukrainian ICTV channel. According to him, 4 EU member states have already signed such declarations. All 27 countries of the European Union should approve Ukraine's membership.
If everything depended on Charles Michel and Ursula von der Leyen, Ukraine would have joined the EU yesterday, and this is true, because they help and they really see the reform program. But we understand that the decision on membership in the EU, the membership of Ukraine, and the majority of Ukrainians see their country there in the future, should be accepted by all countries. 27 countries should say yes and vote for Ukraine's membership.
Ukraine will receive about $700 million to overcome the consequence of the COVID-19 pandemic and implement important structural reforms. Ukraine and the International Monetary Fund have agreed on the first revision of the standby program. The IMF Council plans to approve the agreement in November and extend the program until the end of June 2022. A joint standby program between Ukraine and the fund in the amount of $5 billion was approved last year.
Ukraine's cooperation with the IMF is one of the markers for the international community that our country is moving in the right direction. Today's assessment of the fund shows that Ukraine is actively implementing reforms for the development of a modern state with a developed market economy. New projects were agreed with the World Bank, the allocation of the second tranche from the EU and positive agreements with the IMF. Those are indicators of the effectiveness of our joint work.
Oleksandr Kornienko took his place in the Presidium of the Parliament of Ukraine. 256 MPs voted for his appointment as first deputy chairman of the parliament. Oleksandr Kornienko is a representative of the mono-majority and head of the Servant of the People Party. The new first vice speaker says he plans to change the work of the parliament so that the body can effectively carry out reforms in the country, including to change regulations for the sake of combating the so-called filibuster.
First of all, we need to form our team, which will work upon the reforms of the parliament and do systematic work in general. The primary task of the new presidium is to conduct these relevant interviews. I know that Chairman Ruslan Stefanchuk is actively involved in this, so I will help him if there is such a need, and so that the next plenary week we have already decided on the candidacy of the Chief of Staff.
The visa-free regime won't be cancelled and there won't be any total closure of the EU borders for Ukrainian citizens. However, temporary restrictions for tourists will be introduced. Vaccination will remain one of the key prerequisites for travel to most countries. The Minister of Foreign Affairs of Ukraine commented on the information about what to expect if the European Union excludes Ukraine from the list of safe states due to the outbreak of coronavirus.
If a decision is made, the EU does not automatically establish new border crossing rules, but only provides recommendations to the EU member states. The final decision on the permission or restriction of one or another type of travel of citizens of Ukraine is made by each member state separately, at the national level. The experience of some of our neighbors who were already excluded from the EU green list in previous weeks shows that we should not expect a complete closure of borders like last year.
More than 15,500 new cases of COVID-19 registered in Ukraine over the past day. In terms of the spread of coronavirus, the leaders are Odessa, Kharkiv and Dnipropetrovsk regions. They stress in the health ministry the only way to avoid new severe restrictions is vaccination. Doctors also urge wearing of masks and social distancing. The number of vaccinated teachers and other school workers has increased. This was announced by Minister of Education and Science Serhiy Shkarlet. 86% of teachers received at least one dose of COVID-19 vaccine. 56% are fully immunized. In addition, because of worsening of the epidemic situation, holidays began in more than 5,000 schools.
На сьогодні, за оновленою статистикою,
According to updated statistics, at least one dose of the vaccine from COVID-19 has been received by 86% of educators. Almost 360,000 employees of secondary education institutions have been completely vaccinated with 2 doses, which is 56% of their total number. The highest level of complete vaccination is in 5 regions and Kyiv: Luhansk 79.4%, Kharkiv 70.9%, Cherkasy 70.9%, Poltava 69.4%, Kyiv 67.7%, Zhytomyr region 66.9%.
Epidemiological restrictions aim at hastening vaccination. Lines of people in Dnipro, Odessa gathered to get a jab, and the police are actively continuing the fight against fake COVID certificates. Only during the past week, almost 200 false vaccination documents and test result certificates were withdrawn. Our correspondents will tell you more.
The red zone in the Dnipropetrovsk region. Planned hospitalizations were cancelled. School children are on holidays. Cafes, gyms and shopping malls are working with the restrictions.
Обмеження не діють.
Restrictions are not applied if all employees, organizers and visitors of the mentioned institutions or events are fully immunized and have a green certificate.
2 persons at a time, please.
There are long lines at mass vaccination centers. Doctors say over the past 6 months that they haven't seen this number of people who want to get a vaccine. During a day, only in one of them, more than 6,000 people have signed up for the first dose of the vaccine. Due to restrictions, it is necessary to get vaccinated. The number of COVID patients in the regional hospital was 3 times higher than last year. 28 patients are in an intensive care unit, another 150 in other buildings, which are also overcrowded. We put new beds every day. In intensive care, the situation is terrible. Every day, 2.5–3 tons of oxygen are used. This has already become the norm. Odessa region is the anti-leader in terms of the number of new cases of COVID-19 and is in the red quarantine zone. People started vaccination en masse. Last weekend, only in 2 days, the record 17,000 people have come to get a jab.
Odessa is in the red zone, and when I decided to do the first dose, there were only 3 people. There were no people at all.
Программа висит на первой прививке.
The program doesn't work for the first vaccination, and the second can be done, but the first not. I did a PCR test before, but now I decided to vaccinate in order to get a certificate. According to doctors, the city hospitals are full with coronavirus patients.
Наші прогнози.
Our predictions for the rapid increase in morbidity have come true. Of course, there are problems with social distancing and mask regime. Overcrowded hospitals and fines for not wearing masks in public places. The Donetsk region of Ukraine is now officially in the red zone.
На сьогодні
All 30 hospitals that are included in the list of work on hospitalization of patients with COVID are working. The occupancy of beds is almost 90%. The possibility of additional opening of hospitals is being considered as well. Restrictions in the region have been toughened over the past week. In the past 3 days, the police have issued about 200 reports for the lack of a mask.
Да, я плохо отношусь к тому, что люди
I think it's bad that people violate the law and do not want to wear masks.
Ну, наверное, правильно.
Well, it is scary. The friend of mine died recently. In 4 days, a man just burned out because of the illness.
The Minister of Health reminds restrictions of the red zone will not affect those who have COVID certificates of full or partial vaccination. Reported by Vadim Kromer, Natalia Husak, Bohdan Sivko and Alona Hromova, UATV News.
Ukraine fulfills all obligations to its Western partners, being a reliable country for gas transit. This was stated by head of the Naftogaz of Ukraine, Yuri Vitrenko. Moreover, he denied the institutions of Russian President Vladimir Putin about the danger of an increase in gas supplies through Ukraine due to the allegedly worn-out gas transportation system.
Всі професійні учасники
All professional participants in the European market understand that Ukraine can pump much more gas for transit. Last year, 65 billion cubic meters were booked, and this year 40 billion cubic meters. Not because something happened to the Ukrainian GTS, but because Putin specifically does not want to supply gas to Europe. He reduces the volumes on purpose in order to blackmail Europe. The capacity of the Ukrainian GTS at the exit for transit exceeds 130-140 billion cubic meters.
Blocking of the work of the OSCE Special Monitoring Mission in Donetsk and Horlivka, uncontrolled by Ukraine, can be qualified as an international terrorist attack. Tatiana Ivanova, lawyer and representative of separate districts of Donetsk and Luhansk regions of Ukraine in the trilateral countergroup, stated this. According to her, the actions of Russia and illegal armed groups under its control should be specified as a terrorist attack. Being a jurist, I can say that the actions taken against the OSCE members are an international terrorist act. Undoubtedly, now international organizations, not only the OSCE, but most likely the UN Parliamentary Assembly of the Council of Europe, the European Union should have the word on this matter. And probably this will be the subject of consideration at many international venues. More convenient and affordable. In Ukraine, the Unified Information System for the social sphere has been introduced. It should simplify the process of obtaining social services. Ukrainians no longer have to collect a lot of papers and wait months for the consideration of applications for a subsidy or the appointment of a pension. My colleagues found out how will it work.
Vera Pyatkovska from Kyiv is applying for a subsidy. But in order to receive it, she had to collect the necessary documents for several months. The same amount of time the woman spent to get the results from the social service.
The answer came then. It said that some papers were missing. Which ones, I don't know. I haven't elaborated because I don't want to have any arguments.
To make the processing of social benefits easier, the Minister of Digital Transformation, together with the Minister of Social Policy, has developed a unified information system for the social sphere. All data will be collected there, and the person will not have to take certificates from different structures.
Не потрібно буде з собою носити.
One won't need to carry different copies of documents in order to receive social benefits. One won't need to prove to the state one's need of social benefits. Due to the fact that the data will interact between the registers, this information can be seen almost automatically. Retirees or people who have not been able to collect copies for a long time will not be chased. All this will be shown automatically, and there will be such a real-time data exchange. According to the Minister of Social Policy, Marina Lazebina, such an innovation will reduce the burden on social workers. Instead of wasting time on endless checks, they will devote more time to quality service. Also, the unified information system of the social sphere will exclude any illegal charges and corruption, which will allow the state to save up to more than $400 million annually.
В результаті людина буде звертатися або
As a result, the person will apply either to the Center for Administrative Services or to the social unit of the local community, or without leaving home, through the DA application. Most importantly, one will be able to get information about the decision in some few days. That is, data verification, determination of the human right to existence, and the formation of payment documents will be automatic.
The pilot project is already working in 4 territorial departments of social protection and in 5 territorial communities of Kyiv and Zhytomyr regions. The launch of the system throughout Ukraine will take place next year. And after the DIA summit, officials promised that the registration of subsidies, pensions and payments to internally displaced persons will be possible through an online application on the DIA web portal. Reported by Vadim Kramer and Yulia Bardish, UATV News.
That's all for this hour. More updates on our official website, YouTube, Twitter and Facebook pages. Thank you for staying with the UATV channel. See you tomorrow. Goodbye.